I remember the sound of the pen hitting the boardroom table. Sharp, final. Gerald Pike froze mid-sentence, and every executive in the room turned as the door opened behind me. Marin stepped inside, calm and precise, a folder tucked under her arm. Her eyes locked on mine for a single breath before she addressed the board. I knew what was inside that folder. More importantly, I knew what it meant for him, and for me. 36 hours earlier, I thought the most dramatic thing that could happen on my first vacation in 9 years was ordering sparkling water instead of tap. Marin and I had barely taken our seats at a small corner table on Coronado Island when my phone started vibrating across the wood. I didn't want to answer. My hand moved anyway. Caitlin. Gerald's voice cracked through the line before I could speak. I did not approve your leave. This is unacceptable. You are fired. Effective immediately. For a moment, everything inside me went quiet. Not panic, just silence. The kind that comes right before a storm breaks. I took a breath, closed my eyes, and suddenly felt something sharp loosen across my chest. Then I did what I had never done with Gerald in 9 years. I laughed. Marin lifted her glass, eyebrows raised. Did he really just fire you? She asked. He did, I said, almost lightheaded from the relief spreading through my ribs. She clinked her glass against mine without a hint of hesitation. Then you can stop pretending he owns your life, she whispered. And don't worry, Mom, I have a surprise for you. I studied her face, too calm, too steady for the chaos Gerald had just thrown at us. Marin had always been observant, but this was something else. A measured confidence, a secret waiting for its moment. I should have asked what she meant. Instead, I let myself breathe for the first time in 9 years. The story you are about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team at HerRevenge. It is designed to entertain, inspire, and explore themes of strength, justice, and personal transformation. Names, characters, businesses, and events are products of imagination and are not intended to resemble real people or organizations. By the next morning, the consequences of Gerald's call were already gathering speed, and I had no idea just how far Marin's quiet promise would reach, only that everything was about to shift. The morning after Gerald fired me, I sat across from Marin in our small San Diego kitchen, still trying to understand why my chest felt lighter instead of heavier. She pushed a cup of coffee toward me. You slept better than you have in months, she said. I think my body finally realized it doesn't belong to Solvista Dynamics anymore. She gave a quiet, knowing smile. You belonged to them for 9 years? Mom, that was the problem. 9 years. The number felt unreal when spoken out loud. 9 years of carrying every broken workflow, every last-minute crisis, every late-night call that always began with, Caitlin, we need you to fix this. When I joined Solvista, they called the downtown San Diego office a hub of innovation. What they meant was that people like me held the place together while people like Gerald held the spotlight. His praise always went upward to investors, to directors, to whoever made him look good. Downward. That was where his demands lived. I remembered the first time he handed me a collapsed data sequence without documentation. You're good with puzzles, he said, like it was a compliment. It wasn't. It was an assignment with no credit attached. Every time I rebuilt a system, he handed the presentation to someone else. Every holiday I canceled. He nodded like that was simply the cost of being reliable. Marin watched all of it happen. She grew up hearing my half-whispered excuses, seeing me rush out before dawn, watching me fall asleep upright on the couch. One evening, she confronted me gently. You're disappearing, Mom, piece by piece. I told her it was temporary. I told her loyalty mattered. I told her hard work eventually earned respect. She didn't argue, but I saw something shift behind her eyes. That was the beginning of the silence, the kind that grows between who you are and who your job forces you to become. Now that silence was cracking open, and somewhere inside it, Marin was already preparing the next move. Later that morning, Marin sat at the dining table with her laptop open, her expression sharper than it had been the night before. She wasn't just my daughter then. She looked like someone assessing a problem she already understood too well. I checked something, she said, tapping her screen. Your vacation request was approved by Human Resources 6 weeks ago. Gerald manually blocked it afterward. My stomach tightened. That cannot be right. It is? Her tone had none of the softness she usually used with me. And it is illegal, especially during an audit cycle. I stared at her. How do you know all this? She hesitated only a heartbeat, because Pacific Meridian Ventures cares about audit integrity, and Solvista Dynamics is now part of their portfolio. I blinked. You interned there. That was years ago. I still have contacts, she replied, eyes locked on mine, and they keep me updated on companies that pose risk. Solvista has been on their watch list since the last governance review. Before I could respond, her phone buzzed against the table. She turned it slightly away from me, barely noticeable, but enough to show the message wasn't casual. Her jaw tightened as she read. Marin, I asked. It is nothing. The words were too quick. I reached for her hand. I do not want you tangled up in this. She pulled in a breath. Mom, you were never supposed to handle all of this alone. Gerald built an entire system on your back, and now he is trying to rewrite the story to protect himself. A silence stretched between us, not heavy, just full. She closed her laptop. I need a few hours to make some calls. Please do not talk to anyone from Solvista until I'm done. Her voice had changed. It wasn't a request. It was strategy spoken out loud. I didn't understand the full shape of what she was doing, not yet, but I understood enough to stay out of her way. By late afternoon, I told Marin I needed to return my laptop and badge. She didn't argue, just watched me with that assessing calm again. If anyone tries to corner you, she said, walk away. I mean it. I nodded, though I didn't fully understand why she sounded like she was preparing me for a battle. When I stepped into the Solvista lobby, the noise hit me before the faces did. I told you the sequence will not run without the override key, someone snapped near the reception desk. That key does not exist, another voice shot back. It existed yesterday. 2 supervisors rushed past me, both holding folders that looked dangerously close to being thrown across the room. A junior analyst spotted me first. His eyes widened. Caitlin, oh thank God she's back. I'm only here to return equipment, I said quickly, but the words didn't matter. They spread across the lobby like a spark landing in dry brush. Heads turned, conversations stopped. A few people actually moved toward me as if I were the only stable surface in a collapsing room. What's going on? I asked. A manager stepped forward, breathless. The reconciliation module froze. The audit workflow won't validate, and the client portal rejected every automated submission this morning. I swallowed hard. Did someone reroute the sequences? No. We thought you did, before I could respond. Gerald's voice exploded from the stairwell. I do not care how you fix it, just fix it. He marched into the lobby, red-faced, mid-rant. If one more delay hits that portal, I swear. Then he saw me. His entire body stopped. The anger drained so fast it left something else behind. Something sharp and unguarded. Fear. Caitlin, he said, voice cracking once. What are you doing here? I held up the laptop, returning what belongs to the company. He stared at the device as if it were a detonator, around us. The tension thickened, staff watching him, then me, then him again. Solvista was cracking open at the seams, and somehow, they all acted as if my presence determined whether it fell apart or held together. And Gerald knew it. I walked past Gerald without answering him. The more attention he tried to pull, the more the room watched him unravel. I headed toward the operations wing, the only place quiet enough to hear myself think. It was not actually quiet, just muffled chaos behind closed doors. Inside the workflow room, 2 analysts were staring at frozen screens. It will not validate the audit pipeline, one whispered. It just loops. That is because the override key is tied to a parent sequence. I said before I could stop myself. Both analysts turned toward me with relief that bordered on desperation. Can you look? One asked. No, I said gently. I am not employed here anymore. Their faces fell. Even that small refusal felt like a fracture spreading across the floor. I stepped back, intending to leave, when a hand brushed my arm. It was Leland, a quiet coworker who normally kept to himself. Today, he looked shaken. Caitlin, he murmured, glancing over his shoulder. Take this. He slipped a folded document into my hand. I opened it carefully. It was a time-stamped HR form showing my approved leave. Under it, a second version edited by Gerald labeled, My absence as unauthorized abandonment of role. My throat tightened. Where did you get this? It printed by accident from the audit queue, Leland whispered. He is trying to protect himself. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from Marin. Mom, do not sign anything. Do not speak to anyone. I am almost ready. Another buzz followed before I had time to inhale. Unknown number, I answered cautiously. This is Caitlin. A woman's voice replied. Urgent and confused. This is Eleanor Rivera from the Meridian client team. We have been trying to reach Sol Vista all morning. No one will explain why our deliverables are late. Can you tell me what is happening? I closed my eyes, the truth landing with cold clarity. They did not call Gerald. They called me. I had not just supported the backbone of Sol Vista. I had been the backbone. I ended the call with Elena Rivera as Gerald's shadow appeared in the doorway. He didn't speak at first. He just looked at me the way a man looks at a fire he started but can't put out. Come with me, he said. I didn't move. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Caitlin, now. I let him lead the way, only because the hallway was already crowded with people watching him flail. He ducked into a vacant office and shut the door behind us. You cannot walk around talking to clients, he snapped. I did not call her, I replied. She called me. You should have redirected her. I did. She said no one here is answering. His jaw tightened. This is not a game. You abandoning your role has put us at serious risk. I held his stare. You fired me, Gerald, on approved leave. His face twitched, just enough to reveal the crack. That leave was never approved. Yes, it was. He looked away, rubbing a hand over his mouth. The timing was inconvenient, so I changed the status. It is not a crime to adjust staffing needs. There it was. The slip he didn't even realize he'd made. My phone sat loosely in my hand, screen down, recording every word. He moved closer. Look, forget the paperwork. Come back and fix this. Just today. I will reinstate you. No. He blinked. You are refusing. I am done carrying a system you refuse to understand. His voice dropped to something raw. Caitlin, if you do not help me, this will get worse. It already has. My phone buzzed. Gerald flinched, thinking it was a call he didn't want overheard. I glanced at the screen. Marin, I answered quietly. Yes. Her voice was steady. Mom, it is time. Go to conference room 7. The line clicked off. I walked past Gerald and opened the door. He called after me, but I didn't turn. Whatever waited in conference room 7 was already moving, with or without him. Conference room 7 was already crowded when I stepped inside. Senior managers lined one side of the table, tension etched across every face. On the opposite side sat a man in a dark blazer with a Pacific Meridian Ventures badge clipped to his pocket. He gave me a brief, polite nod. Gerald entered a moment later, feigning confidence he no longer owned. Before we begin, he announced, I need to clarify a few misconceptions about our current situation. He gestured toward me. Caitlin abandoned her responsibilities during the most critical phase of our audit. Her absence caused these delays, and the door opened again. Marin stepped in, her posture controlled, a folder tucked beneath her arm. She didn't look at Gerald. She looked at the representative from Pacific Meridian. Apologies for arriving during remarks, she said calmly. I needed to confirm a few details before we continued. Gerald blinked, confused. This meeting is for Sol Vista personnel and investors only. The representative rose. She belongs here. This is Marin Hale, Associate Legal Advisor for Pacific Meridian Ventures. The words cut through the room. Gerald's face went pale. Marin placed the folder on the table and opened it with deliberate care. Pacific Meridian has concerns regarding Sol Vista's compliance practices, specifically actions taken by Executive Director Gerald Pike. I have followed every protocol, Gerald shot back. No, Marin said evenly, sliding the first document forward. You falsified an HR record to change an employee's approved leave into an unauthorized absence. Doing so violates labor law and directly jeopardizes audit integrity. She produced a second page. This alteration triggered a chain of automated risks tied to the upcoming capital review. Pacific Meridian's projected investment, estimated at several $1 million, cannot proceed under fraudulent reporting. The room shifted. Chairs creaked. Someone exhaled sharply. Gerald swallowed. This is a misunderstanding. Marin met his stare without flinching. We have timestamps, access logs, and recorded statements confirming your intent. My phone buzzed in my pocket, one vibration. The file I had recorded earlier. At last. I understood her promise on Coronado Island. This was the surprise. The moment everything turned. The representative from Pacific Meridian closed Marin's folder, his expression set. Given the severity of these findings, an internal review begins immediately. All executive actions from the past quarter will be examined. Gerald's composure snapped. This is absurd. He jabbed a finger toward me as the reason the audit collapsed. She abandoned her post. Marin interrupted without raising her voice. That is a lie. The representative looked at her. She nodded once, then turned to me. Mom, the recording. I unlocked my phone and slid it across the table. Gerald's face drained of color as the representative pressed play. His own voice filled the room. The timing was inconvenient. So I changed the status. It is not a crime to adjust staffing needs. The silence afterward was thick and merciless. The representative stood. This recording will be forwarded to the Solvista board immediately. Falsifying HR documentation during an audit is grounds for termination under Meridian compliance standards. Gerald reached for bluster that no longer existed. You cannot make that decision. This is my department. You no longer hold authority in this matter, the representative said firmly. Pacific Meridian formally recommends your immediate removal pending investigation. A security staff member stepped into the doorway. Gerald stared around the room, searching for someone to defend him. No one spoke. Even the managers he'd favored kept their eyes on the table. He tried one last protest. Caitlin, tell them I didn't move. I didn't say a word. The guard gestured toward the hall. Gerald walked out, shoulders hunched, every step more uneven than the last. When the door closed behind him, the room shifted. People looked at me not with pity, but with recognition, relief, and something like gratitude. For the first time in 9 years, the weight that filled every corridor at Solvista was gone. And suddenly, everyone was waiting to see what I would choose next. 2 days after Gerald was escorted out, Solvista called me into an emergency meeting. The interim director, Evelyn Shore, folded her hands on the table. We would like you to return, she said, not as an analyst, as senior operational director, full authority over workflow oversight and restructuring. I felt the offer settle heavily between us. For 9 years, I had dreamed of a day when this company would finally recognize what I had built. Yet all I could think about was the weight I had carried, the holidays I had lost, the way Gerald's voice lived in my phone like a permanent alarm. Evelyn continued. Your leadership is the only reason this company did not collapse this week. I appreciate that, I said quietly. But I need time. Later, at home, Marin listened as I recounted the meeting. Her expression didn't change. They want you back because the house is burning, she said. But you are not the fire department. You are not responsible for rebuilding what he broke. I hesitated. It is a powerful role. It is the same cage, she replied gently. You do not owe them your healing. The next morning, I met with a recruiter from Horizon Systems, a tech firm in La Jolla known for treating people like human beings instead of machinery. He didn't speak to me like I was a replacement part. He spoke like someone who understood exactly what 9 years of silence had cost. We want you to lead our systems stability division, he said. Flexible schedule, protected weekends, real support. I accepted. 2 hours later, my onboarding packet included my first assignment, a third-party workflow audit for Solvista Dynamics. I stared at the contract, a quiet steadiness rising inside me. For the first time in nearly a decade, my future wasn't something handed to me out of desperation. It was something I chose. News about Gerald reached me before my first week at Horizon Systems had even ended. Marin forwarded the official statement from Solvista's board. Gerald had been found responsible for falsifying HR documentation and interfering with audit protocols. His severance was revoked. His eligibility for executive positions across multiple partner firms was suspended for several years. I read the statement twice, not out of victory, but out of a strange, quiet understanding. Actions finally had consequences, and they were his to carry, not mine. Solvista announced a restructuring plan. Shortly after, Pacific Meridian pushed for new oversight committees, clearer reporting lines, and mandatory compliance training. Evelyn sent me a message thanking me again for my years of work. I replied politely. I felt no urgency to return, not even in conversation. Horizon Systems felt different from the first day. My supervisor, Daniel, met me with a warm handshake and a simple promise. We want you to do excellent work, not impossible work. My hours were reasonable. My weekends were untouched. Every time my phone rang, it was during daylight, never with panic attached. I adjusted slowly to the idea that my value didn't require exhaustion. One evening, Marin came over with 2 airline confirmations. 3 days, she said, somewhere peaceful, just because we can. I looked at the tickets, then at her. You planned this. She smiled. I planned it the moment you stopped answering Solvista's crises. Then let's go, I said. It wasn't a vacation to recover from anything. It was a celebration of everything we had reclaimed: time, safety, and a life that didn't revolve around somebody else's emergencies. The night before we left, I stood on my balcony and let the quiet settle. I hadn't just survived being fired. I had stepped through it into something I should have claimed years ago. Sometimes the moment you think you are losing everything is the moment life is finally handing you back what truly belongs to you. Your time, your worth, and the freedom to choose a future built on your terms.